Good morning. So we've all heard the phrase, jack of all trades, master of one. Or master of none, sorry. When the phrase ends there, usually cut off by a disapproving old lady saying, find one thing you're good at and do that for the rest of your life. And that's sound advice. If you find something that you love, that you're very good at, and you want to take that and run with it, there is nothing wrong with that. Very few people actually get the chance to do that. But there's also nothing wrong with taking that advice and throwing it out the window. There's nothing wrong with pursuing multiple passions that you have and taking your time, finding what you love to do before settling down with one of those things. Or maybe you never settle down. Maybe you spend your whole life chasing after the variety of interests that you have. And that's fine too. As the end of the phrase goes, jack of all trades, master of none, but still better than the master of one. So, as somebody who recently applied to a whole bunch of colleges, I had to type my resume like a bunch of times. And what I learned from doing that is that I'm a pretty well-rounded person, if I may say so myself. In case you doubt me, I speak 2.5 languages, I play multiple instruments, I volunteer, and I'm the captain of a robotics team, among other things. So, when I was applying to these schools, my mom was reading every single college application blog that she could find. And the thing that she told me was kind of contradictory. She said that some schools want kids that specialize when they're in 7th grade, whether that be with lab research or with starting a nonprofit, and those kids know what they want to do from the get-go and they chase after it really hard. But she said that sometimes colleges also want people who have a wide range of interests, and that looks like having a diverse class schedule, challenging yourself inside of the classroom, but also being involved in a bunch of extracurricular activities and getting involved outside of school. Finally, she said that there are some schools that just look for good grades. They want students that are dedicated and intelligent in the classroom and probably have a life outside of school, but they're not too concerned about it. Since I applied to all of these schools, I decided that I had to put myself in the middle of that. And I learned 2 things from doing that. First, breadth is very important. It is important in life, not only in high school, but also in the rest of adulthood and college life, to do what you love. But maybe you don't just love one thing. Probably you like multiple things. Maybe you like to cook, but you also like to make films, but you don't want to do either of those things for a living. That's totally fine. I would advise you to do all of those things and continue to explore your passions. It's important, though, that you don't do too many things. If you try and overextend yourself, then you end up losing that passion that you have for the activities that you genuinely enjoy. If you're so busy worrying about how you're going to fit all of your activities in your schedule and still get your work done, you lose the enjoyment from the activities that you actually like doing because you're so busy stressing out about having enough to do all the time. So, breadth is important, but being too broad is dangerous. The second thing I learned from my college application process is that depth is also important. It is important not only to have many varied interests, but it's important to have a couple of those interests that you know inside and out. Things that you chase after, things that you love with all of your heart. Because if you're a surface level person with surface level interests, nobody's going to want to hang out with you. You get pretty boring pretty fast if all you know is general trivia and you don't really understand what it's like to have a passion and to follow after something with all of your heart. So my recommendation is that you try 2 or 3 things, maybe 4, and you learn those things with all of your heart and you get excited about them. Because when you do what you love, you find that you're a happier person than you were before. And you find that people gravitate to you because they see that passion and that fire in your eyes, and they want to talk to you about it. They want to share that emotional connection. Because people don't bond over things. But if I love books and you love books, we're not bonding over the pieces of paper bound together, and we're not bonding over the ink printed on the page. We're bonding over the emotional experience that we shared reading that book, whether it made us laugh or cry or question our worldviews, we don't want to talk about the specific little details. We want to talk about how it made us feel. And that's something that's very important, and that's what being well-rounded can do for you. Those emotional connections that you made, those skills that you learn, are the toolbox that you use to interact with the world. Something that's becoming ever rarer in the digital age. Speaking of the digital age, being well-rounded is also a great way to get off your phone. Some of us know the guy that when we're taking a selfie or we're reading an article on our phone, they come up to you and they say, "Oh, kids these days with their technology, their faces are always buried in their phone." Well, if you're a well-rounded person and you have an interest that you like to share with people, you can say, "All right, I'm putting my phone away and I'm going to start a conversation with you about my latest passion, CrossFit," or whatever it happens to be. Boom! Connection made, conversation started, and no more comments about kids these days with their technology. Being well-rounded is also a great way to leave technology behind altogether. We spend so much of our time as a young generation trying to keep up with the Joneses and the social media influencers. But if we never take a chance to put our phones away and look away from the screens, we may never learn that maybe we love spending time outside in the woods where there's absolutely no cell service. If you're too busy browsing through Kim Kardashian's Twitter feed, you may never find out that you love to make your own paths and set your own trends instead of following what everybody else does. If you're so caught up in what the hive mind thinks, you lose a genuine part of yourself that the internet doesn't have time for. When individuals lose their individuality, life gets really boring, and it can also get dangerous. So go, chase after your passions, become a well-rounded person. The world doesn't need people who fit in neat little boxes with pretty little bows on top. The world needs people with diverse interests who are different from each other, but still can connect through that emotional bond that we all share. The world needs you. Thank you.